Somewhere right now, someone is sitting in a dark room, phone locked in a drawer, staring at a blank wall on purpose. No music, no food, no eye contact, nothing. They filmed the setup for TikTok before they turned the camera off, because this is a dopamine detox. 24 hours of nothing to purge the dopamine out of their system and reset their brain. Here's the uncomfortable part. That's not really how any of this works. And believing it is might be why your last 5 resets didn't stick. Let's start with what dopamine actually is, because almost everyone gets this wrong, including most of the internet telling you to detox from it. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. That idea got outdated back in 1997 when neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz published a landmark study in the journal Science showing that dopamine neurons don't fire when you get a reward. They fire when a reward is better than you predicted. Miss an expected reward, and dopamine actually dips below normal. Dopamine isn't measuring pleasure, it's measuring the gap between what you expected and what you got. It's a prediction system, not a pleasure meter, which already tells you something's off about the idea of detoxing it. You can't purge a signal that isn't accumulating in your body like a toxin in the first place. So where do the crashes come from? The real ones, the ones that make you crave your phone 40 minutes after you put it down. In 1974, psychologists Richard Solomon and John Corbett published a theory that explains it better than any detox app ever could. They called it opponent process theory. Every time you feel a strong pleasure spike, your brain automatically fires an opposite signal to pull you back to baseline. And that opposing signal doesn't just cancel the high, it overshoots it, dropping you below where you started. That dip is the craving. Scroll, spike, overshoot, crash, craving, repeat. Stanford psychiatrist Dr. Anna Lembke, who has spent her career studying addiction, calls this the pleasure-pain balance. Your brain works like a scale, and it will do almost anything to keep pleasure and pain level. Tip it too far one way with something engineered to spike dopamine fast. Short-form video, junk food, endless scrolling, and it swings back hard. Here's the part detox culture completely misses. Do that enough times and the swing doesn't fully reset anymore. Addiction researchers George Koob and Michel Lemole documented this in a body of work on what they call allostasis, the finding that with repeated big spikes, your baseline itself starts drifting down. Not just the crash after using, your resting state, the water level before you even pick up your phone. Worth being precise here, Koob and Lemole's core evidence comes from substance addiction research, not phone use specifically, but the underlying circuitry, the same dopamine pathways, is exactly why behavioral loops like doom scrolling show the same pattern in newer studies. This is the actual mechanism, not a toxin buildup, a shifting baseline caused by chasing spikes too often, too hard. Which is exactly why the 24-hour blackout box version of dopamine detox mostly doesn't work, because it's solving the wrong problem. You can't purge something that was never accumulating, and one clean day doesn't undo a baseline that drifted over months. So what actually moves the needle? In 2023, researchers led by Julia Brailovskaya ran a real experiment. 619 people, split 3 ways, total smartphone abstinence for a week, cutting daily use by just 1 hour, or no change at all. Published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, Applied. Both intervention groups saw real drops in anxiety and depressive symptoms and a rise in life satisfaction. But here's the twist that breaks the whole detox narrative. The group that just cut 1 hour a day had results that were just as strong and actually held up more steadily over the next 4 months than the group that quit cold turkey. Sustainable beats extreme, every time. So if starving yourself of stimulation for a day isn't the fix, What actually resets a drifted baseline? You raise the floor instead of punishing the spike. And there are 4 things that do it, backed by real research, not wellness account intuition. First, sleep. A 2008 brain imaging study in the Journal of Neuroscience found that sleep deprivation measurably lowers dopamine receptor availability in the striatum. Skip sleep and you're running the whole reward system on less fuel. Protect it and you protect everything else on this list. Second, exercise. Researchers used PET scans on 12 healthy adults before and after 30 minutes of treadmill running and measured a real release of dopamine in the striatum afterward. You don't need to be an athlete. You need to move consistently. Third, morning sunlight. A 2018 study in the journal Cell mapped a direct pathway from your retina to your brain's mood and rhythm centers. Get outside within the first hour of waking, and you're using wiring your brain already built for exactly this. Fourth, protein. Tyrosine, the amino acid your brain converts step by step into dopamine, is the literal rate-limiting ingredient in the whole production line, confirmed across decades of biochemistry research on the enzyme that runs the conversion. Eggs, meat, dairy, most protein sources, you're probably already getting enough, just worth knowing why it matters. There's a 5th one worth mentioning, with an honest caveat attached. A small 2002 brain imaging study by Trolls Kjær found that a yoga nidra-style deep rest state increased dopamine release in the brain by around 65%. It's real, peer-reviewed, a PET scan study, and it's also just 8 people. Treat the direction as promising, not the number as gospel. Do these consistently, and you're not fighting your biology anymore. You're working with the same system that was drifting against you. Go back to that dark room, phone in the drawer, 24 hours of nothing. It's not that the instinct is wrong. Cutting back genuinely helps. It's that the story around it is wrong. You were never detoxing a toxin. You were interrupting a spike and crash loop that's been running since 1974's opponent process theory first described it, decades before anyone called it dopamine detox. Understand the mechanism, and you don't need the blackout box. You need 1 less hour a day, better sleep, morning light, and patience. Because baselines don't reset in 24 hours, they rebuild over weeks. Your reward system has been running this exact loop since long before anyone slapped the label Dopamine Detox on it. Understand the actual mechanism and you stop fighting yourself. Subscribe if you want science that actually changes how you operate. I'm Illumin8. See you next week.